everyone, Pratima here. So the much awaited POCO F7 is finally here. POCO is one of the few brands that has been continuously making awesome gaming phones year after year. Last year's POCO F6 was a huge hit. I absolutely loved it. And this year we get some really interesting upgrades with the new POCO F7. The price has, however, gone up slightly, but with bank offers and early bird discounts, you should be able to get it under 30,000 rupees for the base 12 to 56 GB variant. And at this price, is the POCO F7 the best mid-range gaming phone out there? Well, let me tell you all about my 1 week experience with the POCO F7 in detail in this video, so let's get started. Alright, let me start with the areas POCO has improved the most, and one of those has to be the design. Now, if you remember, the POCO F6 had a plastic body and didn't exactly have the most attractive design to look at, but this year we get an aluminum frame as well as a glass back on the POCO F7, so it feels much more premium than something like the iQOO Neo 10, which has a plastic back and plastic frames. I actually accidentally dropped this phone last week and there's a big dent and discoloration, which is something aluminum frames would have somewhat protected against. In any case, I like how the POCO F7 looks like. It has a squared off edgy design that all of my gamer colleagues have given a thumbs up to. The one I am using is this special silver color edition, which looks quite refreshing, and we also have a tiny Snapdragon logo over here, which looks really cool. However, if this is not your style, you can also opt for the standard black or white color options. And you have to remember that this particular color variant is a fingerprint magnet. Another improvement this time is that we get a proper IP68 dust and water resistance here. However, POCO has not exactly disclosed which glass protection it has included at the back, but I'm guessing it's a POCO Shield glass like we had with the more expensive POCO F7 Ultra. Likewise, we also get a downgraded Gorilla Glass 7 eye protection versus the Gorilla Glass Victus we had on the POCO F6. Anyway, what I appreciate about POCO is that they have always been one of the brands that provide a cover and a pre-applied screen protector out of the box, so you don't have to worry about getting an aftermarket one. But one thing I experienced during my 1 week of use is that this is not your typical one-handed usage kind of phone. It's slightly heavier and wider than a standard phone, so at times I felt like holding this phone was a bit of a muscle exercise. Although it is understandable because we get a really big 7550 mAh silicon carbon battery in here, and it provides insane battery life. Now, to be fair, I am using the global variant that has a smaller 6500 mAh battery and gives around a day and a half of endurance. The charging speed, however, is the same at 90 watts, and we get the charger inside the box that takes the phone from 0 to 100% in about 1 hour and 10 minutes. Okay, moving on, like with most POCO and Redmi devices, you also get a great display experience on this phone. Apart from having a super accurate color and contrast, the POCO F7 also has all the other high-end qualities like Dolby Vision support on OTT platforms, 3840Hz PWM dimming, and sufficient enough brightness for both indoors as well as outdoor use. I especially love how well POCO has optimized HDR video playback on this device. The F7 really shines while watching dark scenes on Netflix and such. Even when it comes to interacting with the screen, the haptic feedback is really strong and precise this time. So whether you're gaming or just casually typing, the vibration here feels so much better than last year's POCO F6. I don't have many complaints regarding the speakers either. It is not the best I have heard in this very price range. The iQOO Neo 10 has a louder output, but it's more than good enough for casually listening to music, watching movies, or playing games. Now, talking of playing games, the POCO F7 gives you the best gaming performance in this very price range thanks to the latest Snapdragon 8s Gen 4 chipset, LPDDR5X RAM, and UFS 4.1 storage it has. Now, the Snapdragon 8s Gen 4 is not a huge upgrade from the 8s Gen 3 and also nowhere near the 8 Elite we get on flagship phones, but for the price, I think it's unfair to complain. In all the games I played, I got the most stable FPS in the highest settings here. PUBG ran at an average of 89.9 FPS, and look at the 5% lows. It's 89, which means there wasn't much deviation in FPS throughout the gameplay. Same with games like Mobile Legends and even heavier titles like Genshin Impact. The POCO F7 rarely stutters while gaming. But there is a catch. Even though there is a huge vapor chamber cooling solution on the POCO F7, I found that this phone heats up pretty quickly while gaming. The POCO Neo 10 with the same chip did not heat up as much in all of my gaming tests, but as you can see from this screenshot, there were some noticeable frame drops on POCO, but I did not face the same issue on the POCO F7. So POCO is clearly aiming for better stability versus higher temperature. Nevertheless, I hope POCO finds a way to manage the heating via software update, because once or twice I even got this overheating message on the screen. Now, while we are at the topic of updates, POCO has promised 3 years of OS and 4 years of security updates on the POCO F7, which is not bad for a mid-range device. And for the most part, the software experience on this phone has been good enough too. If you've watched other videos on this channel, you know that I am not the biggest fan of Xiaomi software. And here too, there are still a ton of pre-installed bloatware apps, among which apps like Get Apps and Mi Video cannot be uninstalled. Even when it comes to the overall look and feel, I think Xiaomi and POCO need a little revamp. Okay, finally, let's talk about the cameras. And if you look at the past, POCO has chosen to go with mediocre OmniVision sensors on their F series. But on the POCO F7, we finally get a Sony sensor, a 50 megapixel Sony IMX882 with OIS and an 8 megapixel ultra-wide lens. I compared its cameras with the POCO Neo 10, but I'm thinking of making a comparison among these phones separately. So right now, let me tell you about the core performance of the POCO F7's cameras. Just like with most POCO and Redmi devices, here too the images come out a bit contrasty with a lot of whites in the images. I did not notice the phone over sharpening artifacts, and hence there were decent details in most photos I took from it, but from time to time the photos don't have the most natural color reproduction either. If I have to speak from experience, the primary lens here definitely performs better than the POCO F6. The F6 had issues with dynamic range, which has been improved, but considering the superior image sensor this time, I guess the images here could definitely have been a bit better optimized, especially the portraits, because sometimes the portraits from it have great skin tone, but sometimes the phone messes up, like in this photo right here. Hence, you need that perfect lighting for this phone to bring out good portraits. If there's insufficient lighting, you may not get a good portrait image from this phone. I am happy with its nighttime images though. They are on the warmer side, yes, but there are decent details and there isn't much difference between the color science of the normal as well as the ultra-wide images. Of course, with an 8 megapixel sensor, the ultra-wide lens here is not able to gather as much details as the primary lens. During both daytime and nighttime, you will only get average-looking ultra-wide photos from the POCO F7. Its selfie camera is better though. I like the punchy contrast it produces, the details are there, the photos aren't overly beautified, and the skin tone is not bad either. Even the selfie videos appear nice and lovely with good colors and decent stabilization, but the one thing that sucks is that you can only shoot at 1080p from POCO F7's selfie camera. There's no 4K option. But from the back camera, you can shoot up to 4K 60fps videos, and for a performance-centric phone, the output is not bad, it's good enough. But I have to tell you, you will notice movement jitters and a slightly cropped in field of view at the 4K 60fps mode. Okay, conclusion time. And after using the POCO F7 for a week, I must say that it's another great device from POCO for performance-centric users. Besides that, I like the kind of improvements that POCO has made on the design side. The F7 definitely feels like a more premium device than its predecessor and even its competition. Likewise, it features an awesome display, has not cheaped out on speakers and haptics either, and the battery life you get with it, it's great for long hours of gaming. So unless you're someone who absolutely needs great cameras, the POCO F7 is a good all-rounder device for casual users too. And as I said earlier, I have been comparing it with the POCO Neo 10 side by side, so do let me know in the comments if you are excited for the comparison video. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notifications icon. Saying this, I'm Pratima and thank you so much for watching.